Hi guys, welcome back. Back in 2016, when AMD introduced socket AM4, Team Red committed to using this socket for multiple CPU generations. First, Zen-based processors using AM4 were a huge success, and AMD gained good market share, successfully competing with Intel in the consumer CPU market. But before Ryzen was born, AM4 initially supported Bristol Ridge CPUs and APUs, and one such accelerated processing unit was the 7th gen AMD A12-9800. Initially launching in September 2016, it was only available as an OEM part. Almost a year later, in July 2017, it also became available for retail with a price tag of around $130 USD. A12-9800 features 4 cores clocked at 3.8 GHz, boosting up to 4.2. Those Bristol Ridge cores are based on the excavator architecture and were manufactured on a 28nm process. Because of the locked multiplier, sadly there is no overclocking. 9800 was officially supporting DDR4 memory running at 2400 MHz and was rated for 65W TDP. Being an APU, A12-9800 of course also featured Radeon R7 integrated graphics. With just 512 stream processors, it was not intended to replace dedicated GPU and was really only suited for light gaming, but more on that later. Let's quickly go over the test setup. I will be using an Asus Strix B350F gaming motherboard, 16GB of G.Skill DDR4 memory, and keeping it cool was the H150i all-in-one liquid cooler, and I'm powering the whole system as always with my old trusty AX86 Ti. As for the GPU, I will be using Gigabyte's RTX 3080 Aorus Master, acting as the bottleneck. Well, let's see. Cinebench R23 kicks off synthetic benchmarks, and right off the start, A12 sits nearly at the bottom. With a single thread score of 551, it is only slightly faster than 1st gen i7 that runs at stock speed. As soon as you overclock the i7, it's game over. And I know, that's not a fair comparison, still, I can't believe we are looking at AM4 CPU that released in 2016. Those 2 MB of cache are surely not helping here. 7zip benchmark ranks the A12 slightly below stock 870, on the flip side, it's 5 times quicker than Pentium 4, right? Blender car demo render took A12 22 minutes and 37 seconds. Unsurprisingly behind everything I've tested so far, but for the Pentium 4. Are you even surprised by these results? Lastly, I've used Handbrake to encode 10GB 4K video file down to fast 1080p 30 preset. This took A12 just under 1 hour. Despite being dead last again, at least the margins are smaller. Up next, let's run some game benchmarks. As always, we will start with F1 2018. Despite only having 4 CPU cores, their utilization was not stuck at 100%. RTX 3080 was really chilling with under 40% usage. A12 managed 60 FPS on average with 1% lows at 26. This is of course not surprising after what we saw in the previous test, but part of me still thinks, really AMD? I'm going to test the 1st gen Ryzen 3 in near future, it would be nice to see how they compare. Dirt Rally next. This time, cores are maxed out at the 100% usage almost throughout the whole benchmark, but despite this, A12 only managed to squeeze 52 FPS on average. Stock i7 870 is nearly 50% faster here, but when overclocked, the lead jumps to 110%. Yeah. Performance in Deus Ex Mankind followed previous games. A12 managed 36 FPS on average and 1% lows are at 20. I normally also include Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark, but after multiple crashes, I've run out of patience. Forza Horizon 4 is next. With Ultra preset, all cores are at 100% usage and A12 delivered 47 FPS on average, but 1% lows at just 14. A stock i7 870 was faster by 75%. Rainbow Six Siege next. Sadly, no miracle to report on, just that the A12 continues to deliver embarrassingly poor results, this time with 94 FPS on average and 1% lows at 55. Next game tested was Far Cry 6. Here, A12 managed 27 FPS on average with 1% low sitting at 15. 2009's i7-870 faster by almost 80%, even at stock speed. And the last game tested today was Cyberpunk 2077. Coincidentally, it also happens to be the absolute worst result for the A12. Of course, if we ignore Shadow of the Tomb Raider. With 22.7 FPS on average, A12 was demolished by the i7, which was faster by 152%. Ouch. Being an APU, we of course must not forget about the integrated Radeon 7 GPU, so let's quickly look at its gaming performance, starting with S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shadow of Chernobyl. With maxed out settings, the game runs at 45 FPS on average and 1% lows at 27. Respectable results, lowering just a few settings would net us well over 60 FPS, I can't complain here. And just as a reference, last time I tested an AMD APU, the A12-9800, S.T.A.L.K.E.R ran with 30 FPS on average using the same settings. Yes, I can confirm, Half-Life 2 runs really well on the A12. Once again, maxed out settings so nearly 116 FPS on average, with 1% lows at 55. And finally, GTA 5. As you can hopefully see, when I applied the minimum settings all round, game was running at 31 FPS on average. While that might sound okay, let me assure you it was not happy. Huge spikes of lag and worst of all, slowly loading textures made this unplayable. Still, when compared to A12-6500 that managed 17 FPS, A12 is nearly doubling that. Okay, let's conclude this review of the A12-9800. The trouble is, I really don't know what to say. Who do we thank for where AMD is today? It's not hard to see why Intel stuck with 4 cores for all those years. I mean, why would they even try? Imagine, just for a short moment, a future where AMD was to release another compactor, forklift or dump truck architecture based processors. In all honesty, if it wasn't for Zen CPUs, AMD would no longer be in business. But back to A12. I bought mine brand new for £17 on eBay, but even at this price, I don't really see a reason why you should buy one, other than curiosity of course. APUs are the future of computing, but it almost makes me think AMD created the A12 just to highlight how good the upcoming Zen CPUs are going to be. Have you ever owned any Bristol Ridge APUs? Don't hesitate, let me know about your experience in the comments down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.